Yeah. Taking away that. Yeah.
I think what's cool about it is there isn't rules, and there isn't wrong art. There can be bad art. There's not wrong art.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just somebody else's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because I think perfectionism, I think, you know, when we're taught this tree, you need to paint this tree out and needs to look this way, that then we do run into this, well, mine's not perfect. So then I just shouldn't participate and I shouldn't put anything out into the world. And I think it's really important that kids get to participate in any kind of arts so that they can, you know, push the boundaries of what is right and wrong in their creativity.
Yeah. 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 Did you want to add something?
Well, I'm just hearing all of you say that. It just reminds me of just, you know, how as you get older, people's creativity gets stifled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, you have people always, I'm sure, you know, some of you have had people, I always wanted to dance, or I wish I played basketball, or I wish I would have taken up photography. And it's like people, you know, I wish I played piano. And it's like, well, you still can.
You still can. Yeah.
You still can. What's stopping you? Well, I'm too old. And it's like somewhere along the line, somebody stifled their creativity and told them that they can't. And my mom always told us, can kill can't. And it's like, why can't you? What's stopping you?
Yeah.
Can kill can't. Who told you that you can't do it? Even if nobody buys 1 million records, even if nobody, you know, buys 1,000 picture books, still put your book out there with your pictures in it. I mean, it's your creativity and you like it, you know, because you did it. It's your art.
Mm-hmm.
And kids have that childish curiosity, but as we get older and we get our 9-to-5 jobs, people kill it, you know, but then they come up with some theory at work, you know, for process re-engineering or something, and then they want you to ask why 5 times. And when you were a kid, they tell you don't do that, but now they want to take $5,000 training for you to ask 5 why times. And ask why 5 times, and you're like, why? What? But they told us don't do that. Now they want you to do it when you get grown. It's like, what?
Yes.
And I think to build on that, I think that as we get older, we get more focused on the final product, when really the process of creating art is the tops, right? Like getting it, getting in that flow state. I don't even know that I have children. I don't know what planet I'm on. Like when I'm painting, it's like I'm in a different universe, and it's the greatest feeling. Like I want to be there all the time.
It is.
I feel the same way. I feel like I feel like so many people that I know are surprised when I tell them I don't like performing. I perform all the time, but I love the rehearsal. I love being in rehearsal and figuring out the new things and having that process. I love that.
You're a whole different person, right?
Yes. Because I would never have guessed that you were an introvert.
And everything's better when you're in rehearsal. Everything.
Yes.
Art is always better when you're in rehearsal. You're all missing out when you go to shows.
Oh man, I really love that you all touched on that, because there is such freedom in that, right? And I mean, to me, this is my art, right? And it's so funny because people will tell you they want to know the end results and what the goal of this is. And it's like, you know, to come together. That's what we're doing. We're coming together, and whatever happens, right? And so people do like to know this timeline, and I don't live in that world, so sometimes it's hard for me to communicate to people what the mission is, because I don't have this end, because this kind of stuff never ends. It's ever evolving, right? You have to continue to grow and be intentional with growing the community and all those things. So there is no ending. So I never know what to say, and then I sound really unprofessional.
You know, that's something, going back to the kids thing. I think that's something that I've noticed is that kids have a hard time just enjoying the journey. Like I cast them in a show, and then they're like, "What's my costume going to be?" And I'm like, we're not getting to that yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's important to help teach them, is that, and why I think the art are good for them is to show them that there's enjoyment to be had in the process as well.
Yes.
I think we're so hurried to get to the applause and the.
Yes. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the journey, the ride. It's okay to do that. And I'm glad you touched on athleticism, because I was going to talk about that, because that is a part of art to me. I mean, that whole idea of that releasing moment to be able to, you know, perform and learn how to work with other people is a big part of that. But I also want to talk about throughout history, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but art has always told stories. It's always told stories. I mean, you can go back and you say, oh my goodness, they were doing that then. And then some of us have been able to see kind of history repeat itself, right? And some things as well. What story do you think artists are trying to tell today? Like when you look at some of the artists that you may love, or even you all yourselves, what stories do you feel like they're trying to tell today? There's a lot going on right now. I mean, we all live in a world right now where there is a lot happening, not even worldwide, but right here in our communities, right? There are a lot of shifts and transitions that are taking place. What do you think the artists are trying to tell us today?
I know the one thing that the artists will never stop talking about love. The one thing from the beginning of time is that's the one story they're gonna always talk about love. From Shakespeare to Dolly Parton to Elvis to Marvin Gaye, to Bruno Mars to Ariana Grande to whoever. They talking about love.
Yeah.
Everybody's all to Jesus. They always talking about love.
Yes.
All the artists talking about love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That everybody is love. That's just like seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even you can even see love in sports, believe it or not. Like just the motion, the movement, the way the body moves. That's love.
Oh yeah. Well, so I'm glad you said that, because we were just at the Memorial Cup game. What day was that? I don't know what day it was.
Sunday.
Thank you. It was Sunday. And you know what? It was really interesting because I know a little bit about hockey, but I'm not I don't follow it, right? But the love that was in that arena, because it was a community thing, right? That it was palpable. It was just like electrifying that everybody was so excited to be there together to represent a moment in history, right? And so if you don't like hockey, that's okay, because that feeling of love was so strong. So I appreciate you for saying that. Does anybody else want to comment on that?
I can touch on follow through with love, with art, especially, I got to reference everything in basketball because I'm the only,
That's okay.
but just, like I'm just thinking of a team we were playing against, this past season. And, usually we get killed by this team. And it was a game where, we was down 6 points to this team.
Mhm.
And we end up actually going up 2 points with 2 minutes left. And I'm just sitting there, and then like my players, they're panicking, right? Because everybody's so surprised, like, dude,
We're winning.
we are winning up this game, like we're about to win. And then like the love of it was just me, just like I'm so calm and patient, and I just got a smile on my face, and I'm not saying nothing. And I'm looking back at my boys, they're panicking. Some are like, dude, we're about to do it. Some are like just can't believe it, right? And I'm looking at the parents' faces, and everybody's in there like, and it's like, we ended up losing, but like just the love, like just behind it was just like, it was just crazy, because it was like, I felt like we won that game, right?
Yes.
And it wasn't even like, no one was mad, no one was angry. Like it was just one of them things where it's like, we just showed so much like love and passion, like for each other, and then like, we had people behind us, rooting for us. It was like, the love of it was like, it was there. So like, the love is definitely real. Like, that's a real thing.
And they were able to see that they could do it, right?
Absolutely.
It was possible. And that's amazing. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
There's kind of a feeling of impatience lately that a lot of artists seem to be expressing, that's very much in the realm of we know better. And especially from the lens of looking at any of the art over the last 50 years, you can look or you can listen and you can hear and see the ideas that haven't changed at all. And so there are voices, from people who are gone now, who are saying the same thing we're saying now, but it feels like that the attitude lately, especially coming from younger people, is we shouldn't be having this conversation right now, because that should have been a conversation then. And so there's almost a feeling of impatience that we should be there by now.
Give me an example. Like, what are you talking? Like, I kind of know what you're talking about, but I would love to hear like an example if you could think of one.
There are a lot of musicians, a lot of poets. I mean, I think about the protest bands of like the 1960s, 1970s. And a lot of protest movies too that came out, because the movie that really inspired 90% of the stuff that I do now, it's a really amazing film called Hearts and Minds, and it's the very first protest film that was ever made, and it was about the Vietnam War. Those types of themes of just, juxtaposition and looking at things that are, you don't speak for people, you let people speak for themselves. And that kind of approach, to a documentary was the thing that I mentioned earlier of like when you interview people and have these conversations, you hear the same thing, but that kind of urgency, I feel like it might not be that explicit, but there's an undertone to it. And when you really, really look at things that are currently being created on TikTok, the conversation is very, ready to move on to the next stuff so we can have, good lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff about being true to yourself, but I feel like there's always been a lot of that. And the interesting thing too is, as I listen to people talk, I feel like art is so individual, and it's so much about like what you're going through and what you're feeling. And while many other people go through those things too, it's like we're getting from it what we are getting from it, right? Like you can sing a song and I'm going to hear like that song's about being true to yourself because that's the thing that I'm working on, right? Yeah. And I think someone else will hear, that's definitely about love, or that's definitely about, so I think we create art about so many different subjects, it's almost hard to pigeonhole them. And then we as people listening to or watching or seeing or what have you, we're going to get what we get from it because of what we're going through. It's just so individual.
Yeah. Cool part. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. Well, we kind of talked about this, when you've had, I guess, difficult times feeling confident, right? Or you have some insecurities, and how art has helped you, right? I know for myself, like I said, I will sing a song and express like all the things you said. Like I'll sit in what I'm in, right? And I'll do it by myself, so nobody else has to join my pity party. But I like it to last only about 5 or 10 minutes, right? I'm very like intentional with, I will sit here for 5 or 10 minutes and feel sorry for myself and welcome anybody else that happens to be around me to feel sorry for me too. And then it's like, okay, what am I doing, right? How do I move on from this? And sometimes music helps me with that, right? And I if I'm trying to get money, I'll play like, a rap song that talks about money, right? I'll play that. I'll play, country. I'll play whatever I want to play that makes me feel what I need to feel in that moment, right? I love South African music, right? And so if I just want to feel kind of free, I'll play that and just kind of do my own movements, right? And so art really does help us. And so how do you all encourage other artists to express themselves in ways that they may not feel like is artistry, right? I mean, because sometimes we question, am I an artist? Like, am I one? It's like, well, yes, you are one. Am I really? Because I don't paint, but I do this, right? So how do you all encourage other people within your genres and your fields to empower them to feel, good about expressing themselves through their artistry?
I think you need the right people.
Yeah.
You need the right people around you, because there is a lot of brilliance that gets completely stifled by one bad opinion. I want to say it's Kevin Smith who's got the quote about you lose nothing by encouraging an artist, but you can lose everything by discouraging an artist. And the more that I find the people who are, quote unquote, my tribe, the people who I really, really, connect with, there's no semblance of tearing someone down. And the amount of confidence that comes with the people around you I haven't found anything that can match it. Just an incredible amount of gratitude for the people in my life who will look at something and say, this is great, keep going. And then I look back on it, I'm like, that was terrible. What were you telling me? But like, at least they told me, like it doesn't hurt anything by just encouraging it. And you might see something that's kind of in development and not necessarily fully blossomed, but there are so many things that people just like want to do, but don't feel like they're in the right company to do it.
Support it, yeah.
Mhm.
It's not just young people either. It's not just people beginning to be artists. I at Creative 360 we do a gallery show called Art Fest 55, and there's always prize winners. They have adjudicators come, and there's always prize winners. And I can't tell you how many times I've been at that event, and the winning person will have just said to me, "Well, I'm not really an artist." The people who are these people have been doing it for 20 years, 30 years, you know, and they'll still say they're not really artists. And I think so. I think it's sort of rampant in this, like in self-doubt. Self-doubt and imposter syndrome, you know, is sort of rampant in the arts. And maybe it's because people didn't encourage them when they were younger, or everyone said that's not a real job or what have you. But I think it's not just. So I think I personally, I used to be a casting director at a theater company for 20 years, and I always say the things I'm thinking. If Annie walks in and she's and I think Annie's super graceful, which I do, I would say, "Wow, you're really graceful." I just say it, and I know it's called verbal. Well, we don't need to say it during the meal, but I have it, but I feel like, why would I keep that to myself? So I'm sure there are times where I get misunderstood. If I was like, "Oh, come here, that's a guy," I'm sure I could be like, "Oh, I'm not like hitting on you or whatever," but like. You know, I'm sure there are times where people misunderstand, but I do try to just say the things I'm thinking when they're positive.
Yeah. And because I know I told Annie, I mean, I said it to her, I'm like, well, I'm not an artist. And I feel like I'm creative, but I think for me, it's like, it's a way of life for me. So I never saw it as like a thing because it just was me, right? And I think that's what it is sometimes too, is that not insecurity for me, but it's like, well, it's just my way of life. Go ahead, Annie.
Right. So I think we were talking the other day, and the quote from Rick Rubin that I shared was, how does it start? Being an artist is a way of being in the world, not any specific
how you show up.
So I don't remember the full thing, but it
was very inspiring when you told me. I went and bought the book.
It's just a way of being in the world, a way of noticing and that sort of thing. But I think finding the right people and being in community is really vital. I've been fortunate enough to get connected with some really amazing people in this community. I didn't paint for like 15 years because I had a teacher in college who made me feel kind of, no, it's fine. But my perception at that time was that because I couldn't paint realistically, that I just shouldn't paint. I should just do my graphic design and make sculptures and just put the paintbrush down. But one day it occurred to me that all of my favorite painters don't paint realistically. So why would I expect that of myself? So, but anyway, one of the things I tell people to encourage them to create more is to just make some crap, like make bad art, because it's not that precious, you know. You paint something and it sucks, just paint over it. Try it again. You write a poem and it's terrible, just throw it in the bin. It's not that big of a deal. It's so interesting throughout history. A lot of the stuff that people thought was terrible is what we love today, right? It's so interesting. It's all the stuff that someone would have thrown away and they thought was their worst work, and everybody loves it. And so, thank you for sharing that. I just want to add anything.
I think, Annie was talking about when you get lost in something. I think passion, right? I mean, this whole thing is called, like, when you're really passionate about something, you just lose all track of time. And I love any kind of time when I am totally, like, when I'm especially behind a lens, totally not self-conscious anymore. So that's like my favorite thing. And then I would also encourage people to practice, right? So, I mean, it takes 10,000 hours to become, really good at anything. And so I think that we think that we should try something, we should be automatically good at it, but it's going to take hours and hours and hours of doing the same thing or trying new things and practicing those to really become good.
And to add on to the make crappy art that I said, I kind of describe it as turning on the faucet. Like you got to let the muddy water come through, and then eventually with practice you'll get to some good stuff.
That also depends on if that's your goal. If your goal is to be a good artist or to be an artist where people buy your pieces or what have you, it's different than I just need to, like, something to work through my emotions with. Or I needed to paint a jacket to wear in public so people know a little bit more about who I am.
Yes, that's fair.
I think it's important too to just be authentic. Like, I'm not trying to be Aretha Franklin. I'm not trying to be Shania Twain. I'm just trying to be Dina. And I think sometimes, people, when you talk about art, whether it's sports, whether it's photography, whatever, we have such behemoth, figures in our face. And so especially like when you talk about kids, it's like everybody want to be LeBron James. Everybody want to be, the next Patrick Mahomes. Well, dog, you're not that. You don't have that God-given talent. Just be you. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not gonna be, Taylor Swift, but just be you. Just use the talent you have and hone that, work on that. It's okay. You're not gonna be Mozart, but just you can still write a symphony.
Yeah, yeah,
It may not be that symphony, but it can be your symphony.
yeah.
You don't have to be that person. Just show up authentic in your craft.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's almost easier though to like. I think it's almost easier for me to encourage other people that way. I feel like the place I work, we call ourselves the place of yes. So people, talk to me and they say, I used to sing when I was in high school. I'm like, great. When can I get you on the stage? And I don't care if you're amazing or not. But it's definitely harder for me to do that sort of self-talk than it is for me to encourage others. Like my entire mission, I years ago, I was trying to, figure out my mission in life. And it was very, my thing. And I was working on the first year of Art Speaks, which is new playwright festival. And I realized that my personal mission, not my work, but my personal mission is to uplift other voices. And that's where I felt the most comfortable. And so that's been where I focus on encouraging other people to jump back into art, even just dip their toe in, which is fine. Even if I just make them come read a poem in public. Aaron. But it's a lot harder for me to do that for myself.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of us, right? Where sometimes it's easier said than done, and we want to encourage other people. Did you have something to say, Alex? I thought I saw you.
Yeah, I was going to add on to something you had said actually about we really did ourselves a disservice by making things out to be so hyperbolic, where it's, the American Idol, the king of pop. There's all these things that are like, oh, there'll never be another this. Of course not. Like it was a very singular experience that happened because of its time. But you're not allowed to feel like you can bring something to the table because you're not Michael Jackson. Like that's insane standards to set for one thing, but also just like the way that it's almost like a don't bother attitude, and especially in the realm of the internet and trying to stand out in the internet, it's very funny to me that like it really just depends. Like there's so much that no one's ever going to care about.
Yeah.
But there's so much stuff that nobody in this room really cares about, but other people might love.
Right.
So it kind of reminds me of the conversation in a lot of the history circles, which is like, how do you get people to care about history? Well, it has to matter to you for some reason. I love Saginaw history and I grew up in Saginaw. Don't really think too much about the other towns around me because that was what was relevant to me. And the genre that you're in, even you don't have to be the best of it, but you can contribute to something. And we just really did ourselves a disservice by setting the bar that high that you have to be in a competition where they announce you king forever. You are the world's greatest. Congratulations.
Yeah. No, it's true. Did you have? Oh, I thought you were. Yeah. So, we kind of touched on this too, but I just remember, and you guys, jump on this if you like, but I remember in 2020 when we were all isolated, and I just remember all the different art institutes and schools and organizations started giving away free art, basically, where they were having, the plays where everybody could see it. They had people outside giving out free art, and that's performances or whatever it is. And I just remember thinking how much we all needed art in that moment. Like literally, it was so significant. And I remember just all kind of documentaries being released for free. That's stuff that we normally would have to pay for, and plays, and some of the Broadway plays were even, given. And I just think about that. So when people like in these schools right now that are eliminating art programs,
The first to go.
it is so sad to me. I mean, what do you all think about that? I get so sad when I hear about that because I remember myself as a child and even as an adult. I mean, we needed it. We needed art. So what do you all feel about that? Go ahead, Laura. I see you revving up.
I feel like when you're in school, you need to you need your place. Like you need a place where you feel safe. And I feel like there are people who feel safe on the basketball court and feel safe with people who play basketball. And there are people, but it's like we're cutting out like 2/3 of our society and saying, well, those of you who do, 2D art and 3D art and performing arts, and none of you get a place. And it's very frustrating to me because I feel like that not every kid fits on the basketball court. I played basketball for just the 8th grade year and I got most improved, but I was not in my place. I just feel like we're just the thing that we rely on the most in times like when in the shutdown, when if you didn't have your books and your television and your movies, you would have been real out of luck. Or even the paintings on your walls. Yeah. Right? You would have been staring at blank walls by yourself for, however long. Yeah. And without that, we would have been in real trouble, I think, more than we already were and are because of that year. But I think it's just sort of society saying, well, that's not important until it's like absolutely dire.
And we saw it was important. And that's the part that's so frustrating. I mean, what do y'all think about that? I mean, that was so telling to me. It was very clear that we needed it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's very much the school programs being cut, that whole idea. Yeah. The part that changed in my life where I went from super introverted kid, who couldn't really speak to wanting to be everywhere doing everything, was marching band. And it was very specifically my freshman year of marching band when there was this group of seniors who saw me and picked me out and said, you're going to get in front of the entire band and pull your pants down. And that's going to be like a skit that we're going to do. Oh, okay. Very like, I'm realizing now as I say that out loud, how that sounds outside of band camp. But like,
I didn't realize it was going in that direction.
No, it was like a skit night thing where it's like, yeah, so you have to completely get out of your shell.
Oh, gotcha.
And completely like, band is so weird when you're trying to explain it to non-band people. All that to say, there was this sort of liberation that happened with that, where it was like, I really don't care anymore. And in that room just cracked up when that happened. Yeah. Like that room mattered. And then it was like the guard came down and then it was let me at him. But all of that was within the fellowship of music. All of that was between playing music together. And I haven't really experienced anything like that since. And I think about, how instrumental, the pun not intended. I think about how important that was in my life, and then to look at it and say, okay, now remove it. Like who is that kid now?
Yeah. Yes.
He still got pants on too.
Yes. Who is that kid now? And that really touches on what you were saying. Like that's some people's identity and their safe place, their community, all these things, and then you just take it around and you really are telling them you're not important. Like that's not important. Only these things are, and it's disheartening.
It's hard in a community too, because if you're like the weirdo and you don't know that there's other weirdos, you're never going to know. You're never going to be like, Annie, are you a weirdo too? You're just never going to do that. Right. But if you walk into like your after school drama club, you're going to be like, yeah, weirdos.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's a point of pride.
Belonging. Yeah. Yeah. And it's every kid deserves to feel like they belong somewhere.
Sure.
And if you're taking away those programs, they might never have that feeling. Or, imagine missing out on all of the wonderful things someone may have created in their life if they never had the opportunity to experience it and go, oh, hey, I like this.
Yeah.
It just won't exist.
Yes.
I remember choir at Heritage High School in Saginaw, and I was in the varsity choir, and we performed. We were a show choir like Glee. We learned how to tap dance. We did Broadway musical shows, and it opened up, our horizon to different genres of music. We sang in Japanese, Italian, we sang in other languages, German. We traveled overseas with the choir. It allowed us to see different things that we probably would not have seen if we weren't in that choir. Our teacher I'm still in contact with my teacher. I will not tell you how old I am, but it's old. I am
Not that
old, but I'm still in contact with my music teacher to this day. And I mean, the relationships
Yeah.
that you build with, your band teacher. We had a jazz band. I was in the jazz band. I was in the choir. I mean, just those relationships, they mean something when that art is important to you at that young of an age and somebody is willing to invest in you.
Yes.
And it is an investment of time and their resources and their talent. And so to have someone want to see you succeed, and as we've said repeatedly, to not have that for today's youth in some schools, it not only saddens me, it makes me angry because they're missing out. And to know that as a society in some communities, we're not willing to make that extra investment in our kids.
Yeah.
So that they can have the music, the drama, the art, the painting. Those are the first programs that are taken from them. And then we wondering why they're running around crazy because they don't have an outlet.
Right. Right.
You take gym away from them. Well, and then all this energy is pent up, it's bottled up. They don't know what to do with it because they just need to paint a picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just need to run around the gym for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all they need is just an outlet. And we take it away from them. They don't want to just have to sit there and read books for 8 hours.
Right.
Y'all can't even do it.
Yeah. Nobody's built to sit